All right, welcome back. On today's episode, we have a gentleman who literally gets to build, buy, and sell simple profit businesses every single day. Nick, welcome to the pod, Bootstrapping to Billions.
What's up, Chris? Happy to be here.
So, Nick, today's podcast, it's going to be a boots on ground episode. Hopefully, we'll get into the weeds. You are a content creator who is also practicing what you preach, creating content while also building, buying, and selling businesses. And you have been doing it for a long period of time. So hopefully in today's episode, we can kind of cover the gamut of it, see how much we can get through. First thing I wanted to start with is for the audience, if they're not familiar, your content. I'm a fan of your content. I was telling you pre-show, like I cook steaks to watching it.
Sweet.
But for folks that aren't listening, I wanted to kind of frame it like purpose of pod. Why did you start?
So a couple of years ago, I sold the majority of my businesses. I've bought, sold, started over a dozen businesses, and I got in this kind of weird spot where I was no longer operating businesses. And if anybody who's listening that's bootstrapped a company, you know that it takes a lot to be successful. It takes a lot of focus, and you can't be chasing a bunch of shiny objects. So when I sold, that was the first time in years that I picked up my head to look around like, I could do something different than what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I started getting really curious. I started actually seeing different types of businesses like CAC. What's CAC? I don't know what customer acquisition, LTV. I don't know what that means. SEO, like all these things that I just didn't know. And at the same time, I have a friend of mine who's on social media, and I saw the relationships that he was building. My kids were young. And so it kind of just came to this point where I was thinking, I want to meet interesting people and learn about their businesses because I don't know what else is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be a way for me to meet them. I'm terrible at journaling. So this is a kind of a journal for my kids. They can come back and listen to, 38, 39-year-old dad, feed it into an LLM and actually have a conversation with him. Right. And then number 3, I want to learn. So meet cool people, journal for my kids, learn cool stuff. And that's really why I started the podcast.
All right, let's take a quick break from today's episode and shout out our sponsor, Gelt. Right, their founder, Tal, was on episode 13 of Bootstrapping to Billions, where he dropped a ton of knowledge on our audience, created a ton of value, and Gelt is doing exactly that in this ecosystem, building a ton of value. If you're building a business, it's important to know taxes are not just the cost of growth. Handled correctly, they can actually help fuel it. That's where Gelt comes in. Gelt helps founders and business owners turn taxes into a growth lever, aligning your entity, salary, income mix so every dollar you earn works harder for you. Their team of expert CPAs, supported by in-house built AI technology, keeps your filings organized, your tax estimates accurate, and your income tax predictable and small. If you're scaling fast, don't let taxes slow you down. See how Gelt helps founders and business owners use proactive tax strategies to drive growth, reduce your taxes, and do more with your business at joingelt.com. Mention Bootstrapper in the contact and receive 10% off your first year on us. Again, that's joingelt.com, joingelt.com. All right, back to today's pod. When you're creating the content, are you thinking about the audience? Are you thinking about your kiddos? Because I think that is a very unique concept that you just flagged, like creating a capsule. And there is a real reality that this content that we're creating right now could be turned into some sort of something for them to experience. Right?
So I think of my kiddos in the sense that I don't want it to be incongruent what they see with who I am. So I'll make stupid jokes. I'll, just have fun in these conversations. I'm not trying to be super buttoned up and be like, well, did you know that the LTV to CAC ratio is actually translated from the Greek? I don't want to be like that. I want my kids to actually see who I am. So that kind of informs the way that I approach things. As far as who I pick to interview, it's really just, well, that's interesting. What's a newsletter? Well, that's interesting. What's gutter cleaning? So then I get to go learn about it.
And I mean, you get to go into the economics of it. I mean, it's Nikonomics.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So you do also nerd out as well. And how many episodes have you done so far?
I think 250. I think we're at 250 recorded.
Such a crazy milestone.
It's stupid. In a year and a half, it's too much. I've actually decided, I'm like, I got to cut back. I can't do 3 times a week anymore with all the stuff that I have going on. It was a season. It served a purpose. It's been amazing. I've met some really cool people, but yeah, about 250 in a year and a half is it's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, no, it is. Of the 250, what's your favorite?
Oh my gosh. That's like asking which one's my favorite kid.
Well, top three. Top three.
Most most recently, I had an entrepreneur named Steve Hunsaker on, and I honestly don't even remember what we spoke about. I just remember I had a ton of fun. And Steve's this guy who just has like lots of ideas. He's done a lot of home services. I think his first business was a Christmas lighting company.
Mm.
I got a lot of energy from that one. I think that was a really cool episode. Anne McGinty has been on a couple of times, and she's just somebody who always has a lot of ideas. She also started a Christmas lighting company. And then I had someone on, and I'm blanking on his name, but he was the former CFO of, do you know C4, the energy drink company?
No,
Okay, so
no.
they're big. They do like hundreds of millions of dollars a year. He was the former CFO of that company, left it to like buy this $96,000 pool route and
Mm.
grew that to an $18 million business in like 5 years. And Clayton is his name. That was a really, really cool episode. Just so those are three off the top of my head. Just interesting people that I talked to.
Dig it. When you're talking about the businesses, like, I mean, you just listed three. They're definitely SMBs and they're definitely simple businesses. Two of them are the same. Christmas lights.
Christmas lights. Yep.
Doesn't get much simpler than
No.
hanging lights, right? I mean,
Nope.
you get to explore all these things. So I think like in the tagline of your channel, it's literally there's a million ways to make $1 million and I want to find every
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
What are the best?
So I'll give you some that I really like, but I'm actually more interested in the framework that kind of I've created than I am specific businesses, because I think that the business
Let's
changes
talk about the
depending on
framework.
you. But
Yeah.
well, I'll give you three that I love right now.
Mhm.
Newsletters. I still think newsletters are just an incredible investment. They're not something that's going to pay off right away, but if you take time to build out a distribution channel, you have a lot of opportunities down the road. So newsletters, whether that's local, whether that's topic specific, whether that's personal, I just think a newsletter are really cool businesses that I hadn't thought of. Pretty much any home services business
Mhm.
that is low capital investment that
Mhm.
can scale to get me out of my 9-to-5 job. So we're talking about like pressure washing businesses, window washing businesses, carpet cleaning. I'm trying to think of what else. Roofing, not so much, but anything that I could like $10,000 investment, and all of a sudden within a couple of months I could replace my W-2 income on the home services side. I really like that. And then the third one would be AI consulting businesses. 2000, I don't know if you remember this. I'm 40. I'll be 40 in a couple weeks.
Okay.
But in 2008, people didn't know what social media was. They didn't know how to rank on Google. They didn't know like how to actually go and get business. And so they would just hire anybody off the street. They're like, oh, you know what Instagram is? Well, be my social media person. I think in the way that happened in 2008, AI is now that in 2025. These small businesses know they need it. They know that it's valuable, but they don't have the first clue of how to actually implement it. So if you're somebody who knows a business, go learn AI and you can start an AI consulting company helping with implementation. So those are the three that I think are really cool businesses at the moment.
Yeah, no, I dig it 100%. It's like on the AI side, it's social media, 1999 to 2000. It's this change of an era, going from yellow pages to .com. First time somebody who could learn how to build with Dreamweaver could charge 35 grand to make an HTML website.
Dude,
And I mean, it's really like one of those moment in time type of shifts.
yeah, it's insane. Like now we look at Facebook and we're like, it's a money printing machine. If you understand how to target people, if you understand how to like write the copy and run the ads, I put $1 in, I get $5 out. But back then there was no such thing as Facebook ads. Google pay-per-click was a thing, but even SEO was like barely understood. It was the Wild West. So if you just knew a little bit, it added so much more to the businesses than people actually realized back then. So yeah, I think it's very similar to 2008.
What about newsletters? So newsletter is something that we dabbled in. I did a buy and build in public on this channel a couple of years ago. We acquired a whole bunch of newsletters. We rolled them up into Simple Profits, which we run now weekly, like 300 and something issues, 50,000 subscribers.
Bro,
And
that's
that's
amazing.
what seeded a lot of this channel. You had somebody on on the pod recently, and it was like local newsletters. It was like a way to grow a list local. Like, what are some of the teach train equipped hints? Like, what's the cheat codes for somebody who wants to get into the newsletter game?
So let me actually start backwards, even higher level than that. I think when you're looking at starting these types of businesses, the first thing that I want to look at is, what do I know? What am I good at? What do I have experience in? It might be that I have time. That might be like the only differentiating asset that I have. I might just be young and I don't need a ton of money, and so I can spend time on things. It might be that I have a specific skill set. It might be that I have a specific knowledge base, but you want to look and say, what do I differentiate in? And then the second thing you want to do is focus on distribution. Those are the first two steps. Know thyself, and then work backwards in terms of distribution. Is there someone that I know? Could I piggyback off of somebody? How could I actually sell this? And then comes kind of everything else. So the reason that I love newsletters is because newsletters are like SEO, search engine optimization. If you have a website and you just add articles over time, you rank better and better and better, right? Google looks at you, oh, this is a trustworthy site. They have this history. Certain keywords are obviously being filtered all the time when people are searching for things. So the more articles you have, the more keywords that those can show up, the better your ranking. But SEO is not a short-term thing. It's not like, oh, I wake up one morning and all of a sudden my website is search engine optimized. It takes time. But if you're willing to be consistent, it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at newsletters. Newsletters, you're not going to wake up overnight and be like, I got $1 million business. But if you find within a market one of basically these three criteria, either you're a local newsletter and you're geographic specific. So you're like everything to everybody. Number two, you're a local newsletter, but you are demographic specific. So I'm a local newsletter for dads in their 30s, right? Or you're a local newsletter with an interest specific. So, okay, I'm a local newsletter for concerts. If you pick one of those and you just start putting out week after week after week, you will gain subscribers over time. You can play the long game there, and all of a sudden within a couple of years, or if you're like really hungry, a couple of months, you can have 10,000 subscribers. And then what happens is you have distribution.
Mm-hmm.
So companies will pay you because they say, Chris has eyeballs that are looking at his newsletter every single week. And they're a local newsletter, local to Connecticut. Great. I want to advertise my local business to this newsletter because it's got the demographic that I want to advertise to. And all of a sudden you can start making money from that. That's like the first order of making money.
Mm-hmm.
The second order of making money is, hey, I started this newsletter and it was for dads in their 30s. Now I have 10,000 subscribers, and these are dads in their 30s who on average make $100,000 a year that are health conscious. What business could I launch off of this?
Mm-hmm.
Could I launch a supplement business? Could I launch a content business? Could I launch a gym membership? So now I'm playing in the game of I can launch a business because I have the distribution, as opposed to I'm just getting money from advertisers who are willing to pay me for the eyeballs within my distribution. I don't know if I said a ton, but
no. Let's break this down because this is really, really great. So our audience, we call them investmenteurs. We focus on everybody from exit 1, which is exit your day job, make your business your job, all the way to exit 5, sell your business, right? And everything in between. Everything starts somewhere. So we just gave a place to start. And the first was like, know thyself, find a voice.
Yes.
Which may be difficult, right? I don't know what's harder, find a voice or find distribution. But from a find a voice perspective, you gave two very different approaches. One was, who do you identify as, dadpreneur? And the other was, where do you identify, or who do you identify with? And that was that local geography, right? And you're focusing on different
for the newsletter.
things. I know that there's different strategies where you could start local, you pair up with businesses, you could cross promote, you could build your list that way. And it's like very systematic, it's very process driven, and there's a built-in market, there's a built-in demand. It's a way to monetize very quick, which is what you just kind of covered. And then the dadpreneur is like something that's hopefully passion filled. Which do you think would be the better place for somebody exit 1 to start, and why?
When you say exit 1, they've already exited?
Exit 1, exit your day job. You're trying to exit out your day job and make something your job, make something profitable, make something going. Do you think that you should start writing something that you resonate with, like dadpreneur, and you're just writing it weekly because that's your passion, that's your identity? Or do you think you should get specific and say, hey, I'm going to build this specific local newsletter?
Okay. I'm going to get a little touchy-feely with you, but I think it's 100% the truth. How old are you?
36.
Okay. So I think you'll agree with me. You have enough life experience. Have you heard of this like Japanese saying, IKIGAI, IKIGAI?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so it's these concentric circles. Did you say yes?
Yeah. For the audience though.
Okay. So
where's the overlap?
It's these concentric circles of what do I know? Like what's my skill set? What am I passionate about? And what will the world pay for? Now, anyways, there's like a fourth one that people use. I like to use just the three. So I think that if you aren't passionate about something, you're not going to keep doing it. Like entrepreneurship is hard, whether it's a side hustle or whether it's your main business. And there will come a day where you're like, why am I doing this? Like I could just go get my job back. Why am I trying to actually launch this newsletter? And if you aren't at least passionate about it, it makes it much easier to give up. So I think what you need to do is take a look at yourself and say, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? And what will people pay for? And it's not just going to be one thing. You can take a look at the market and do a market assessment and say, what newsletters are out there? What is saturated? What is not saturated? What do I know? And you start building sort of this profile of newsletters. And then all of a sudden you're going to have like a list of 5 where you can say, you know what? I'm an electrical engineer and I live in New Haven, Connecticut. And I really, really love doing projects at my house. I'm going to start I don't even know what I would call it, Dad Renovator newsletter, because I know that there aren't that many. I know that it's a high ticket item. I know that I can speak passionately about it and knowledgeably about it. And I can do it for long enough where I can do the fulfillment until I can, whatever, bring somebody in or hire somebody on. So that's really more the approach that I would look at, is like kind of those 3 things. What do I know? What would add value? And what am I passionate about? And I don't, I'll stop there.
Yeah, it doesn't
Does
have
that
to
make
be
sense?
perfect. It's like everything starts
No.
somewhere, just get started is the key. And then once you get started, stay consistent, because consistency is the thing that
Yes.
separates most, right? Most
Yes.
folks can't stay consistent over a long enough
100%.
period of time. It is probably easier if you find the money. You do something simple and find the money fast. But
Well, it's true, but that's just not life.
yeah,
I have this joke where I'm like, everyone wants passive income. And I'm like, dude, there's only 2 people who have passive income. Do you know who they are? They are people who are born with money or people who have already made a lot of money. Because then they have money and they can buy real estate and they can get passive income from that real estate, basically.
yeah, no, I don't think that there really is any such thing as truly passive income, unless you're like truly just like to the point where you don't care. Because no matter what,
No,
there's
but that's
concern
what I'm
costs
saying.
stuff.
If I have $50 million and I put 10 million of that 50 million with somebody to manage it and be like, just get me like a 5% return a year. To me, that's passive. I don't care. That's passive income. I'm at the point where but you don't get there unless you have $50 million. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
no,
that's the
everything
point I'm
starts
making.
somewhere in a very real
Everything
thing.
starts somewhere.
So the newsletter place is a place to start for sure. Home services, high leverage, low capital, high scale. It's a very, very real place to start.
Love those
for
businesses.
sure.
Love those businesses. Yep.
So we also we don't talk about it a ton, but we own blue collar capital, and that's all home service, blue collar stuff in the portfolio. And it's a very real space, and it's becoming more popular than it's been in the past. How do you do that? So let's talk about what do you think? So low capital, high scale. We gave a couple of examples, pressure washing. But do you see these businesses being things that you could build and get yourself out of, or do you think you're creating an asset getting into this, or you just replacing your job?
I'll go through my framework. If
Yeah.
you're a first-time entrepreneur, kind of what I've seen is you just want something to get you in the game. And the reason I like these home services businesses is because they're low capital and they have the ability to generate high cash flow. And by high cash flow, I don't mean $1 million a year, but I mean enough cash flow to replace your W-2. And then you're in the game. Then you're getting experience, how to run a business. You're understanding how to hire people and how to manage a route and how to actually sell to individuals or upsell, or how to deal with problems that you didn't actually foresee before you started the business. So for me, it's like you're just getting in the game, and that's not going to be your forever business. And that's okay. That's totally okay, because there aren't many people who are still with their first business. Like Mark Zuckerberg being with Facebook until now is like not a common thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know how to get better.
You don't.
So everything needs to start.
And so that's why when I'm talking to entrepreneurs in particular, I say, know thyself first and foremost.
Good place to start is a newsletter. Find a voice.
Yes, find a voice. Pick something that you can understand at least the mechanics of how to grow it and how to operate it in particular. I think a lot of people look at this and like, oh, I want to hire someone to do it. Well, I want to have passive income. And it's like, people talk about it like it's a bad thing. Being in the weeds in your first business is the differentiator. Like your willingness to outwork other people, your willingness to just figure it out becomes the differentiator. And if you rob yourself of gaining that knowledge and that experience, you will never understand how to scale because you can't scale something that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell a lot of people, it's like, pick something that's hard and sweaty and get in the weeds for a year or two, really understand it. And then you can pick your head up and like, okay, I didn't like this. I like that. I think I'm going to try this new thing over here.
Yeah, but the depth and breadth of experience that you're going to pick up and the good timely
Yep.
decisions you're going to make because of it.
Totally.
pays
You can't
dividends.
replace it. You can't replace it.
Third, AI consulting biz.
Yeah. I just love these businesses.
What about them?
I mean, so like, if you notice all of these businesses, I'm picking for like first-time entrepreneurs who want to get into the game. And this is another business. All of these are services businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these are a pain in the butt to scale.
Mhm.
Like you've had services businesses. It's hard to manage people. They depend on people to scale. So for the most part, many of these are going to hit a ceiling. And the same would be for AI consulting services. But it gets you in the game. And right now there are so many business owners who don't even know what to do with AI. They're like, well, should I be trying to rank on Google's AI search? Should I be using AI? Well, I have some marketing needs. Should I use AI to write my copy? Could I replace employees? How do I audit? Like they just don't know. So if you can step into a business and say, hey, I used to run an HVAC company. Let me show you how to use AI in your business. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money, and it's going to drive you revenue. They're going to pay for that all day long. And you don't need 50 customers. You could get 10 customers, charge them $1,000 a month, and all of a sudden you've replaced your W-2 income. And now you're learning on somebody else's dime. And like I said, it's just like getting into the game. It just gets you in the game.
Yeah, I like the focus about it. Like I like the fact that it gives you a place to look and focus. And in focusing, it gives you the place to plan and then just do. Once you do a little bit more, do a little bit better for sure. But yeah, like it gives you, honestly, because I do think that shiny objects is a very real thing for a lot of folks, but like giving a place to focus and then not having the pressure of it having to be huge and just building a simple business that actually generates revenue, hopefully kicks off profit, put some profit in your pocket. It's like a great place to start. That's a great place to live. And then life is a very long thing and it's a journey. And then as you go down this journey, you start to pick up the experience. You go exit 2, exit 3, exit 4, exit 5. You're learning how to operate businesses and then exit businesses, which you have experience with, right?
Yes.
So if we wind it back into not, exit 1 early audience, but folks listening that have 7, 8-figure businesses right now, and they're trying to really pick up some game. What do we do? Take us back to those moments in time. So if we did a quick inventory, you had 7, 8-figure businesses that you exited from: healthcare, e-comm, crypto.
Yeah, they weren't 8-figure. They were combined. They were doing $30 million a year in revenue, but they weren't 7 individual 8-figure businesses. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I probably
Okay, so healthy 7-figure businesses. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Healthy 7-figure businesses. And were you running them all at the same time, or these were individual pursuits and focuses, and they were moments in time, and you were navigating them, and then you had to make decisions of what to do?
So no, I wasn't running them all at the same time. I had CEOs who were running those businesses, but I was operationally responsible for them.
Let's talk about that.
Well, and we were talking about this before the call. So I was excited to dive into it. Kind of going back to the like, know thyself. What motivates you? What are you looking for? A lot of times you get into entrepreneurship and you think, well, I want to have $100 million business or $1 billion business, or I want to own 10 companies. I saw this clip of Chris Crone talking, and he's like, I'm really deep into private equity. My goal is to own 10,000 companies. And I think any entrepreneur who has experience would understand nobody wants 10,000 businesses. It's so much headache. It's so much complexity. And so when you're starting out, you don't necessarily know all of these things, but you kind of know that you want freedom. You want the ability to not have a capped upside. You want to control your schedule and your life, but you don't know any other path than entrepreneurship. And every entrepreneur that we've seen on the news is like, Mark Zuckerberg is $100 billion. Elon Musk has $500 billion. And so you think that's what you're supposed to shoot for. What I've learned over time, however, is that many people lose sight of that, and they look down on the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year pressure washing business, when in actuality, that guy's living the life that we all thought we wanted when we started out. Controls his schedule, has good money, is well known in the community. You know what I mean? And so we chase a lot of these bigger things. So to your question about running these businesses, I realized kind of over time that operating dozens of businesses is really hard.
Yeah.
It's at scale.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. Unless they are all the same type of business, or you have like a centralized office where you offer a couple of services and then are really hands off. If you're trying to like roll up different businesses in different industries, like we have a tree trimming business, we had a crypto mining business, we had an RV park, we had a digital agency, home health, hospice, medical practice management. None of those are similar. And so there's a lot of operational complexity to executing well on any of those individual businesses. And you're context switching all the time. It makes it really difficult. What I would say to somebody who's trying to scale, I don't think trying to get to 100 million or $1 billion company is a bad thing. If you're trying to scale, pick an industry and stay in the industry, or pick a function, centralize that function and just be totally hands off. So you're either Jeff Bezos and you have one company effectively, or you're Warren Buffett and you have 50 different companies that you own big stakes in, but you're totally hands off. That, in a nutshell, I would say that's kind of my lesson in Holdco building.
For like, without a doubt, 1,000% agree with all of that. And I think that right now it's becoming more of a popular theme. So I've been building Simple Holdings since 2012. And when I started, nobody knew what a Holdco. It was not like, I literally be like, what are you doing? Like, what is that? A business that owns other businesses? What do you do? Like, how's that a thing? And now it's starting to become like more and more popular. And as things start to become more popular, obviously more people get involved with it. And when more people get involved with it, not all the right people are getting involved with it, just law of large numbers. And that's like a great formula for a lot of mistakes to happen. And when a lot of mistakes happen, there's loss. And one of the things of this show I would hopefully like to help folks do is avoid risk and avoid loss, right? Mitigate the risk, decrease the risk, increase your upside. So, right. One thing for folks listening is like, don't make that the end. Don't make that the pursuit, right? Like that's not the goal. You got to figure out how to get yourself there is the goal. And you just gave a couple of really cool things for us to get into. First was like the ability to not have capped upside. That's like a cool quote. That's a quotable. The ability to not have a capped upside is like super cool, which means you have an objective of putting yourself there, right? So you have a goal and then you have a thing you need to focus on, right? And then in approach from specifically the Holdco perspective, we said industry focus or function focus. And you're quite literally thinking right now through this, right? So early in the show, you said like literally something you were quite literally thinking through. Let's work through it together. Like I love this. I obsess over this. This is what I live, right?
Okay,
so maybe if this is episode something that we could get out of, mutual benefit. When you're thinking about it, how do you differentiate? Like, what is your core objective? So on the Holdco side, it's the ability to not have capped upside. What does that even mean to you? Because you said not just money, you said also time. Yeah. You sprinkled in a couple of things after, which I thought was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's awesome.
So my brother-in-law started a company 8 years ago. He literally bootstrapped it to a $500 million company today. He's still operating that company. Great company. And he said to me early on, before they even got the ball rolling, he was like, I just got tired of relying on other people's generosity. And I think many times when you are in a job, you're relying on your boss to say you do a good job and maybe give you a bonus or maybe give you a raise. And the metrics aren't really clear or objective. So when I say uncapped upside, the inverse is also true. You have downside. Like you could go bankrupt and lose everything. But it's dependent on you now. And so now I'm not just going to get that 10% raise a year or maybe a $20,000 bonus. Whatever I do could be as big as I want it to be if I execute well. There's something freeing about that I really like. The other sides of the upside are I want to spend my time with whoever I want working on the projects that I want. Mm-hmm. To me, that is what brings joy and fulfillment in life. So if I am creating my own opportunities, my upside is not capped because now I've got the potential of financial upside. I've got the potential of intellectual fulfillment, and I've got the potential of emotional fulfillment and stability. Money, mind, and people. So that's why I say like there's an uncapped upside when you're looking at growing these businesses. Does that make sense? Or am
It
I just
does. And
rambling?
I feel like we
Okay.
subscribe to a similar sheet of music. We're reading off a similar sheet of music to a certain extent.
Love it.
Like I'm a big believer that money's a short-term motivator. I think that money's a short-term motivator for people, whether you're in a job or whether you're an owner, right? It's there when you don't have it, but then as soon as you do, it becomes very much so less valuable, and other things in life become more valuable. And
Yeah.
and we're living in a world of real constraints and scarcity, and we are, at the end of the day, allocators, whether we accept that we are or not. All of us as humans are. We have a certain amount of time to allocate to any one which thing, our heart, or anything really care. When you're when you're thinking about this, like, what is the frame? So money, mind, and people. How do you rank them? Like, what is your rank and retrieve to make decisions around? What's your framework? Because you mentioned a framework earlier a couple of times, and I also want to like squeeze out the framework itself. So I'm trying to.
My ranking is mind, people, money, and mind and people are probably interchangeable. Money is definitely a third.
So mind being
yeah.
the intellectual pursuit, mind being the ability to pursue full potential, mind being
curiosity.
That's
interesting. Could we solve this problem? Is it a big enough problem? Could I get people together to actually figure out how to solve healthcare? Like, is it going to stimulate me every single day to keep coming back to it? Because if it doesn't, I'm going to be distracted by something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And
so
it also ties in, because it's like mind is almost like the ability to be selfish to be selfless, to be selfishest. Mind, I have to identify the thing that's big enough to get people involved. Second, people. So now I need to be able to selflessly get people involved. Selfishest, collectively as a whole, we need to pursue this thing and make some money.
We need to make some money.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. When you're thinking about the Holdco and you're thinking about what you're doing, so you have a ton of collective experience. You have experience as an operator. You have an experience. You have the life experience of needing to do things, right? So at first, we need to do stuff at first, and then eventually you achieve and you kind of have more freedom. And it's like, what do I want to do? And that's typically like when a lot of shiny objects start to come in and you start doing a lot of stuff because you're like, oh, I couldn't do this stuff before, and now let me do everything.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, that's a lot. It's not really what I want. It's not optimizing for my life. What do I do now? And then you have this like almost like pressure is a privilege to a certain extent. You have like, you're put in the position of privilege to a certain extent to make the right type of decisions, good timely decisions. And you also have kiddos, and you have all these other things that you need to make, employees, team members, all this stuff. What's your frame? So not necessarily where you've been, but where you want to go. Like when you're thinking about your businesses and you're thinking about what you're building, what is your frame that you're deciding within?
So I'll give you the philosophical and then I'll give you the practical. The philosophical is, my biggest rule is I don't want to be away from my kids. Yesterday was our first day of the basketball season, and I'm coaching my two boys' teams, and they're back to back, and we got them arranged, and I got to coach my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old. It was freaking amazing, so good. We had a son that passed away 10 years ago, and that was just you've been through some stuff. You shared some things with me before we started. When you realize what life is really supposed to be about, then you're able to set very clear expectations for yourself. And I'm not saying I always adhere to them, but that's one of them. I want to be around for my kids. I'm turning 40, and I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit of a head case about it, because I'm like, not because I'm sitting here like, I thought I'd be a billionaire. I thought I'd have 5 jets. It's because I'm like, my kids are going to be out of the house. And like, then what am I going to do? Freaking love these little a-holes. They're just going to leave someday.
Yeah.
That's my number one. That's my number one when I'm looking at opportunities right now is, do I have to go anywhere? Do I have to be gone? Can I be there for basketball practice? Can I be there for soccer? Can I be there for music or sports activities, etc.? And then I would say it's the 3 that I've already said. Can I work on the thing that I want to with who I want to when I want to? And if it doesn't meet those criteria, then I don't really pursue them. But once I'm into something, we can talk about like specifically how I'm evaluating things right now.
Yeah, let's like, okay. I think so. First and foremost, that was, yes, absolutely. And
Absolutely, on a lot of different levels, and I appreciate that. When you're in that mindset, two-part question would be the structure of approaching that, because that seems ideal, and then you need to create the ideal, right? Because literally you're creating the ability to have the freedom of time to invest with your family, while also still pursuing what you're passionate about. And then the byproduct becomes these pursuits that you do, which becomes another level of accountability and you're responsible for, right? So then you have to have the structure to be able to manage it and maintain it and focus on it. And I guess that also directly ties into what you just said, which is framing of decision. So how do you decide what to do?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I know that I'm very lucky, and for probably 99% of people who are even listening to this, like I've gotten to do something that they haven't, which is I had time. I had exits and I had money, and I didn't have to jump into something else. I wasted a lot of time, but it also just had the freedom to like explore and figure out what was the next swing going to be. And I wasn't ultra concerned about organization and like trying to optimize. Now, though, I'm at the place where with my brother-in-law, we just launched a healthcare venture studio, which I'm freaking stoked about.
Okay, let's
And
talk about it.
So this is the thesis behind the venture studio. He has this healthcare company. They're big, 5,000 employees, 8,000 patients, facilities, $500 million in top line revenue. And for the last year, he knew that I was doing podcasting and looking around. We'd been talking about, let's start a venture studio here in Boise and we could invest in companies. And it was all these things outside of healthcare. And eventually we had a conversation where I was like, why would we do anything other than healthcare? Like, we know healthcare. We've been better than 99% of people in healthcare. Why wouldn't we just double down and stay in healthcare? And it was like, duh. So we decided let's launch a healthcare focused venture studio where we can leverage the assets within his company to build other products. And the lens that we look at it is like this. Do we understand and can we add value to the product? That means probably 90% of them are going to be healthcare items. And they might even be focused to things that we have experience in, like home health, hospice, home care, skilled nursing, assisted living, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be 10 to 20% that are not healthcare focused, but we can still add value to. One example would be maybe there's an HR software that somebody has created that maybe we want to start up or we want to invest in, or a CRM that we want to build for our own purposes. That's not necessarily healthcare specific, but it is something that we can leverage the assets of Cascadia, who we've partnered with, in order to suss out, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the first question is like, do we have a core competency to actually add value to this thing? The sort of second question is, okay, if we do have a core competency, do we have the bandwidth or the expertise within the team to help facilitate that? So Owen and I might have experience, but maybe we don't have anybody on the team who can actually help spin up a CRM, for example. The next layer that we look at is, all right, since this is going to be more of a venture bet, we know that 8 out of 10 venture bets are going to fail. We're going to throw $1 million a year at this. And so if we're throwing $1 million a year at this, we at least need a 20% IRR. We know it's going to be better over time, but at least in like the initial 2 years, we need like a 20% IRR. So any project that we take on has to return a minimum expectation of between $100,000 and $200,000 in value. So maybe we'll have a hit rate of 5 out of 10, but at least if we just regress to the mean and have a hit rate of 2 out of 10, we are at least returning that $200,000 so that we can have that return on invested capital because we're putting $1 million a year. And then the third piece is it an incubated idea or is it an accelerated idea? If it's incubated, that means we are going to create it internally. Mm-hmm. It might be an AI software. It might be a product. Whatever it is, there's somebody internally who has an idea. Cool. We incubate that and then we give it an opportunity. But it also might be an accelerated idea. So maybe somebody has gotten to an MVP, but they just don't have customer to test it with or resources or distribution, whatever. And so is there an opportunity for us to bring in somebody into the accelerator and then grow them? So one of the companies that we're talking to right now is a staffing company. And I'll try to be as high level as I can, or I'll try to be as specific as I can, but remain high level. Mm-hmm. A staffing company that has no healthcare experience. So they already have the operational expertise in staffing, but they want to get into healthcare. Well, that's a perfect recipe for our accelerator. Cool. Come in. We'll give you access. We'll take an equity stake in this new venture. You can understand healthcare. We'll give you access to our distribution channel. We'll advocate for you. And now you have the operational expertise. You've already done this before. You can go and run with it. We can drive business your way. It's a win-win for everybody. So they come in for 3 months, learn the healthcare space, and spin out. And so that's how the accelerator portion of it works. It's like the lens that I'm looking at it through now, is like, how do we generate quick wins?
Dang it, I have so many questions.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to go through them or if you're going to want to have
Let's
answers
do it.
to them
I'm
or
good.
not, but I got so many questions. So talk about learned experience. So flashback 2012, bootstrapped to 8 figures, sold, restructured. First thing I thought I had to do was start investing in companies because I felt like I wasn't a real startup guy. And I had a big chip on my shoulder and I was like, oh, this is what you do now. So I got this huge space in Norwalk, Connecticut, and we just started opening up doors to companies to come in, and we called it an accelerator, Incubator Accelerator.
Yep.
And I was like semi-writing checks to them. We had a semi-structured program that they would go through, and long story short, it was not a success. It was a great way for me to lose my money.
Spoiler alert, it was not a success.
And what I did pull out of that is a lot of structured process, a lot of things that we ended up productizing and turned into playbooks. And then I ultimately implemented in other aspects of the portfolio in other ways. So there was value extraction, and it was a very real experience, and it was a very visceral experience because we lived it every day and there's a lot of energy. I didn't learn my lesson because in 2016, I repeated the same thing, partnering with IBM and doing an AI accelerator program in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and converting a space. So I have like this learned experience of this approach. So I have these questions and thoughts in mind as well. But the key thing is you define something in terms of a focus. So you are now specifically focusing solely on healthcare, whereas previously we just listed a whole spectrum of different businesses that you're involved with. It was like tree trimming all the way to XYZ. So now in this moment in time, you have this focus. So industry. So earlier we said that there was 2 perspectives to take in terms of the Holdco. Am I having an industry focus or am I having a functional focus? Industry focus or functional focus, Amazon, Berkshire, and you decided industry. So you were focused on healthcare, which is like so cool in the first place. I wish I could get into like be in the healthcare industry because talk about a macro trend.
Bro,
Great place to be.
I talk about that all the time. Warren Buffett has a quote where he's like, "What's my favorite business or what's my favorite boat? A boat with a tailwind." So like, I just love, I love macro trends like that,
dude. And like so cool, like so many things. And I mean, you have the experience, which I don't think I actually knew, like on the in-home living, assisted living stuff. Like, talk about a great, that's a super interesting industry to just nerd out on.
Great industry.
So many different angles to take because you can take like, yeah.
Let me hit a couple things that you said. One, I also had a similar experience. Chris and I, my best friend, we launched this company called Co-Founders, and the whole idea behind it was like, okay, we have some experience, we have some money, let's invest in people who are starting businesses. And so the tree trimming business came out of that, and digital agency came out of that, and we had another healthcare tech startup.
The problems that you're talking about. Gotcha.
And so what I realized in that was like, first of all, I don't have enough money to do this the way that I'd want to do it. Because, and you probably noticed it too, you would have had to hire like a program director. You'd have to hire someone who's like an operator who's in the weeds with each one of these. You got to do a lot of mentorship. You got to get them up and running. Like if you're doing an incubator or an accelerator, it requires an infrastructure that is not cheap. So you might think like, oh, I got a couple $1 million. A couple $1 million doesn't cut it. A couple $1 million a year, but not a couple $1 million to like actually start this whole thing. And so I realized really quickly, like, shoot, man, that's not the way that I want to go. And then by necessity, I had to focus on industry because I don't know your full background. Chris's background is marketing. That guy, Facebook ads, organic, Google, whatever. So he can invest in basically any industry that worries about CAC and LTV, right? Because he understands how you go out and get customers. And so that's not industry specific, but that's
makes
like
sense for the tree trimming
specific
stuff. Yeah, quite
Yes,
literally.
actually,
Get
I
a
mean,
lead, sell a lead in a sense. Yeah.
that's all it is. It's a lead generating company, and we're actually
Yeah.
pivoting that business. But so that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're an amazing marketer, you could start a Holdco company that's just providing that expertise to founders. But for me, I didn't have that specific expertise, so I went the healthcare route. I stayed in the industry.
Yeah, I kind of really actually super love it. But you're coming in with a big partner,
Mhm.
it sounds like.
I am, yeah.
I think you mentioned it, Cascadia.
Cascadia Healthcare.
Yep. Don't know enough. Not an SME in the space at all, but sounds awesome.
I mean,
Because that's like an anchor. That's like a really like strong play because now you can make intros. Network is what works at the end of the day.
and we can facilitate. We can source a bunch of ideas. We can test a bunch of ideas. Like there's a lot of advantages to it.
You talked about 20% IRR though. Are you pulling in outside capital? Because yeah, like that talk about lessons learned. Like it is like a very expensive proposition to
No, I mean
execute.
that's another lesson learned. No, we don't want to. I'm talking on the Bootstrapping podcast, my friend. I'm
Yeah.
not raising any money. Like, no.
But no fund economics or anything?
No, it's just us. And I don't even know that we will spend $1 million a year. That's what we had like originally earmarked, where we were like, okay, we feel good about this, but every decision is run through kind of a committee where we have a conversation like, well, do we need this investment? Like, does it make sense? So like, we're willing to spend up to that, but that doesn't necessarily mean, okay, we have it. We got to deploy it because we're bootstrapping.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're trying to figure this out. We haven't taking money off the table. But what we wanted to do is, because this is kind of a new venture for all of us, and my brother-in-law and then his two partners are partners in it as well. Because it's a new venture, we wanted to like learn it first.
Yeah.
Shocking, I know. And then once we have like a track record and we've learned it, then we can go raise money at advantageous terms and rates, et cetera. But starting out, it's just like, let's just build a muscle first. And then if we really need money to throw gas on the fire, then we can go and raise money, because that's what money's for.
So, like show notes side, that's something that I made a mistake with. So I took the same perspective. I was like, oh, I don't have the track record to do this. Like I need to do it myself. I need to prove myself. So I funded, and I was like, I'll do it with my own capital, fund it, and then I'll use that to then go raise a fund, and then use the economics of that fund to then carry costs, and use the management fees to cover OpEx, and then use the capital to leverage up, do more deals better, et cetera, et cetera. And I never was able to bridge it to the second. And if I was to start it again, I would do it from the beginning.
So what you just said is
better economics.
Dude, what you just said is why I just don't think people understand holdcos or funds. Once you create a holdco or a fund, you've now introduced a whole other operational complexity and dynamic. You've got to manage the fund. You've got to manage investors. If you're raising a fund, there are real SEC regulations that you need to comply with, and the way that you report and the way that you do your financials. There's a bar that you have to meet. It's, otherwise you go to jail like Ty Lopez. So
yeah, talk about a story, right?
Do you want that? Like that's the other question, is like, now you're answering to a bunch of different people. And the same is true on the Holdco side. Like, okay, you have a Holdco now. How do we run payroll? Who does AP? Do we have a shared banking account? Who's funding things up? What's the IT infrastructure?
Like, it's specific to the accelerator model, to the incubator accelerator model, which I guess my difference in perspective is you're thinking about this as the Holdco, and then within this is your Holdco in a sense vehicle, and then within that you have an accelerator and an incubator structure within it. And I'm thinking about it just as like one functional entity of like the thing in which is happening, and like a better way to support that. Yeah, without over complexity of it. Because structuring, you could always do like entity structuring to be able to, silo different things and make it make sense.
I guess the structuring is one thing, but I just mean, now you've got like, well, I got to have the quarterly compliance call, and I got to send out the fund update, and it's just like, I don't want to figure all that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I get it. And things definitely, everything is a process. So when you're talking about this, these are going to be deals that you're either incubating, which means that you're setting them up, or you're accelerating, which means that they're already coming in, and then all of it is flowing up. Are you looking to do like majority ownership? So are you doing like traditional Holdco, I want 80% of ownership into these things, or are you doing it more like venture deals, or?
I think so. The accelerator will be more similar to venture deals. The incubator will be more similar to Holdco, but The
If you
truth
could
is,
only
I
pick
don't
one,
know.
which would you pick? Like if you could only do one type, if you could only do Incubator or you could only do Accelerator, which one would you pick?
Intellectually, it would be
Yeah,
Incubator.
from your framework of mind,
Yeah.
people, money.
Yeah. But like, I love the Accelerator because somebody already has a product. That's so hard to even get to a place where you have a functioning product. And if they come and I'm like, oh man, we know this person, this one, we're connected in this industry, I think we could really not only help them on the user experience, but we could grow this thing from a distribution standpoint. Like that's where I get excited on the Accelerator side. So in a vacuum, probably the Incubator, but both of them are just like very exciting opportunities.
Would you ever do so? Like something I haven't really seen happen because like the Accelerator model has been around for a very, very long time at this point, and there's different degrees of them for sure. There's different spectrums that we've seen across the board. I haven't really seen anybody that does like almost like a PE buyout program where you're coming in with the intention to sell and the Holdco is coming in with the intention to buy. And so now you're actually buying established businesses within the healthcare space.
So I'm not opposed to it. Here's the problem with it. And this it might be the fundamental problem that I've had with just Holdcos in general is if you want a proper Holdco, you've got to have a person to run it.
ETA.
Yeah. And those are hard to find, man. It's hard to find really good, talented, consistent, dependable operators. And then to give them the equity that they need in order to stay. Like if they're that good, where they're growing that business in the way that you want it to be grown, they're not staying for like 5% equity. They're mobile. They can go and start their own business. They can go raise money and have 90% equities.
Yeah, I think that
You
is a
figure-
major constraint for sure.
You figure
without a doubt.
it's hard to do it with just one. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I want to have 10. Like, all right, well, I got to win the lottery not only once, but like 10 different times. So I'm not opposed to the private equity model where it's an accelerator and you buy them out. But the fundamental problem with that is it then exposes me to now I got to go replace them. Who's the person?
Yeah.
And that's just a hard game to play.
No, interesting. Like legitimately, yeah, like all things for sure to think about. I think the concept of scaling this type of business model is really so difficult. And I think like what we navigated to very uniquely on this call is so special because it comes from a super organic place and you kind of have to live it to even be able to talk about it to a certain extent, because that is such a real thing. It's like you're struggling. You're working, you're grinding, you make it. Now you have this freedom. You almost put yourself into as many things. You start saying yes because you want more. And then you create a more problem in a sense. And then you're like, oh, now I got to really simplify. And it's like, oh, what do I do? And like, we're not all Warren, like at the end of the day, like we're not all Warren Buffett. Like, and we have to figure it out on our own. And then like life is a real thing, dude. And I think that conversation about like the kiddos and priorities and all that stuff is like such a real thing. But meanwhile, you're holding these assets, which are really just liabilities disguised because you're responsible for them.
Yes.
And it's like, what do I do? What do I do with my hands? I got to figure this shit out. Which is why I think conversations like this and like this type of stuff is super valuable.
Yeah, I love the idea of Holdcos. It's just when you actually get into it and you experience it, for me, it's just for me. Like it totally could be for other people, and it is for other people, obviously. I'm like, I just don't want that like overhead in my mind of like, oh, we got the liability with this company and this company and this company that are all different. I got a context switch every single time. If you like that stuff and you're good at that stuff and whatever, go for it. But for me, it's just like that's a mental tax that I just don't want to have.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
What we've been trying to do, like what I've been trying to drive through mental model is same thing, same effort of simplicity. So like I've, gone through a very similar thing over the past 5 years of a reason and outside reason to simplify, and primarily driven by my kiddos. And so like super cool in terms of the overlap. Where I landed was the concept of just building an ownable business. Like I feel like the place to live and the challenge that I've been trying to like master for the past half a decade now of like obsession, like nerd out obsession in a closet in a room somewhere. It's like, how do you build a truly ownable business? Like an ownable business being a business that anybody would want to buy but yet you would never want to sell.
That's an interesting framework. Anybody would want to buy, but you would never want to sell.
Yeah. So like a
That's
business that's so
very good
valuable,
way.
anybody
That's
would
a
want
very
to
good
buy
way.
it. So
Yeah.
so profitable, you would never want to sell it. And then so simple, you could run it in like an hour.
That's a very good and interesting way to articulate it. And that's where I go back to. I used to do it as well. People crap on these quote unquote small businesses. Oh, they do $1 million a year in top line revenue and the owner makes 300 grand. It's like, yeah, but he works an hour a week. He's finally gotten to the place where he works an hour a week in that business.
Yeah,
and
dude.
he controls his life. And it's so like, what are we here for? Because I want to be at a cocktail party telling people I don't care about things that they don't really care about either.
Yeah.
Like, I made $1 million this year. Aren't I cool? And like, they'll forget about you in 30 seconds. Like nobody cares.
Yeah. What
about
actually
any
matters.
Of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, dude. I think that's why, I genuinely believe like these lifestyle businesses, these bootstrap businesses, they're life-changing businesses. I think like honestly,
100%.
the easiest way to change your life is to get into like a bootstrapped or even like a blue collar, simple, profitable business. Genuinely. I don't think that
100%.
anybody could just do it. I think like what we talked about earlier in the pod is essential. It is like quite like you have the prerequisite of you need experience and everything starts somewhere. But it's almost like having the goal line. It's not the goal line shouldn't be $1 billion and raising all this venture money and doing all these things. It should be like, I'm starting this local newsletter because I know that down the line, I'm going to have a power washing company. And I know that after that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
dude,
we should make that cool.
I invested in this guy a couple of years ago, $200,000. And it was a lot of money. And
it is a lot of money.
And he lost it all. He lost it all. It was a bad bet. But you miss some things sometimes. And his attitude with it was very flippant. It was like, wow, we tried and it's how investments go. And I think the thing that I realized in that moment was like, if you've never made a certain amount of money, you just have no appreciation.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah. And when I hear people say like, I want to make $1 billion. Oh, I want to be a billionaire. I'm like, do you know how much $1 billion is? Do you know how much $1 billion is? You haven't even made 100 grand and you're talking about $1 billion. The sacrifice, the time, the energy, the luck that it takes to get $1 billion. You just don't even have an appreciation. And I think that unfortunately, people don't appreciate it because they've never experienced it. And people have made it not cool to be like, oh, this lifestyle business is doing amazing things. Yeah. And I'm with you. Like, that's what life is about. Control your life, control your destiny, do something fun that you love, give back to the community, spend time with your family. Who cares if it's $1 million business or $100 million business? Like, you've now architected the life that you always wanted. That's why we do entrepreneurship.
I dig it. I think that is probably the place that we should show note this thing, because this has been quite an epic of an episode. And that was just so beautifully said. Nick, like, before we jump off, anybody listening to the end here, it's the Glengarrys. Like, this is the Glengarry of the audience. Siphon them off. Where should they find you? Where should they go? What do you want them to do?
Check me out. Nikonomics is my podcast. You can search it on YouTube. Nikonomics. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all the social places. Yeah, if you like this stuff, I try to find cool businesses and talk about it in a real way. This isn't about $5 million in 30 seconds with no risk and no money down. Like, that's just not what I'm trying to do.
And you do a really good job at it. I appreciate it. I forgot that we're even on a pod, to be honest.
Good.
Hopefully this is a good episode. Till next time, trust the process, commit to the journey, bootstrapping billions.
If I could do it all again.
Struggling business? It's time to exit with ownership. Join the Exit Studio. Build equity. Unlock capital. Exit with ownership. Keep it simple.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me, and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be fucking sour, take a cold shower, scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder, and all the doubters.
You gotta have that grit, that hustle to make it in this city. Never give up.